So welcome everyone to the science student panel. We have, we're very excited to have you with us to talk about HSC advice and HSC tips, and maybe even moving on to university after the HSC, which is probably feels a long way in the distance now, but it will come up very quickly. I have with me three fantastic first year University of Sydney students doing science right now who were in your position last year. So they will be our experts for today's panel, talking about their experience with the HSC. At any time, you can go to the Q&A window you can see in the bar just below you. If you go to the Q&A and you type in your questions, then we will do our very best to answer them live for you. So just ask any question you have about any aspect of the HSC or university life. What we might do is introduce ourselves. So why don't we, I'll pass on to Arshia to start.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to this session. My name is Arshia, and I'm doing a Bachelor of Medical Science. For my HSC, I did biology, physics, chemistry, and extension maths. If I had to give you one tip for most of your major exams, including your HSC, that would basically be start doing practice question as early as possible. One of the mistakes that I guess I did, and I think that affected my results, was I kept those precious sample questions that NESA released and even like our school gave us until the very last bit. So I wanted to just make the most out of them. And yeah, basically I kept them till, let's say, a week before the exams, 10 days before the exams. And that wasn't really the best thing to do. I guess the earlier you expose yourself to those type of questions, those type of scenarios, the better, the more prepared you're going to be for when it actually counts. I guess, yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Arshia. Gemma.
Hi everyone, my name is Gemma and I'm a first year Bachelor of Veterinary Biology, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine student. My HSC subjects were advanced and extension maths, advanced extension 1 and extension 2 English, music and studies of religion 2 unit. My top advice for studying science, and in my case physics, for the HSC would definitely be working on understanding concepts rather than simply memorizing content. I found that it was much easier to remember how things work and explain the concepts in the exam if I understood the processes. I also found it especially beneficial to make summaries every weekend and revise the content frequently, because that made sure that I wasn't left learning a whole year's worth of work in the few weeks before, like trials and the HSC exams. I also, like Asha, practiced questions before the HSC, but tried to spread them out as much as I could within my study of the content.
Thanks, Gemma. Moving right on to Nuha.
Hi everyone, I'm a first year Bachelor of Science student, and the subjects that I did for HSC was Advanced English, Biology, Chemistry, Business Studies, and Advanced Maths plus Extension 1 Maths. If I were to give you like one or like sort of two tips for HSC in order to like do well in science, is like, obviously, as Asha said, do a lot of practice questions, because that's where most of your, like, that's where you solidify your knowledge and it gets you really prepared for HSC. And another tip that I would really emphasize on is pretending that you're teaching someone. You can go sit in front of a mirror and just like, pretend like you're teaching someone else. And the more simple, like the more easier way you're able to explain something, it gives a really good indication of how confident you are with that particular topic. And then it allows you to know, okay, maybe I need to focus a lot more on this particular area. So it's a really good indication of where you're at.
Thank you. So we've had our three students, and now we'll just go into free Q&A. Please feel free. Thank you for those who've just joined us. Please feel free to type any questions you like to our panelists in the Q&A window. Let us start off by saying, here's a question. What is the difference or similarities between studying science for the HSC and your first year in your degree in university? Let's start with Arshia.
Awesome. That's a really good question, and that's a question I was really thinking about in high school. I guess there are lots of similarities. After all, science is science, chemistry is chemistry. But the biggest difference is in university, we are basically free to do whatever. Someone can do lots of work every day, 5 hours a day. No one's there to push you. No one's there to remind you about the assessments, exams. And yeah, I guess that's it. In university, you're on your own. It's you and your discipline. And it's not really like that in high school. It can be good or bad. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing I've noticed so far.
What about you, Gemma? How did you find your first year of veterinary science?
So this first semester I did a first year biology and first year chem units, and I found that they were quite like, in HSC you were kind of stuck with the syllabus points, and that's where you directed how you studied and what you researched and what you learnt in class. And with subjects in lectures, like the lecturers would go off the learning outcomes, which they put on each slide, but you could continue to go deeper into the content to learn more, which definitely helps in exams. But in HSC, you kind of just learn what the syllabus was talking about. There's not really a limit in uni about what you need to learn. I think you can just keep researching as much as you like. Yeah.
Thanks, Gemma. What do you think, Nuha? How's your first year in Bachelor of Science gone?
Like in year 12, science was a lot more, it felt a lot more like structured and just like less to learn. Like you had your like, you know, respective modules and you would go through them one by one. I feel like in uni, it's more just like continuously just going, and like there's so much things to learn in such a short amount of time. Like for example, the time that like what we've learned so far in semester 1 is equivalent to like 2.5 terms worth of work in high school. So it does get a bit daunting. And also like in terms of like how you study, like it isn't like, it's like not the same way I would study. Like in high school, I obviously did a lot of teaching myself, practice questions. In uni, it's just more like going over lecture slides, talking with other people. Like it's like my study strategies has also changed. But overall, like, yeah, it's still been like a pretty good experience. Like I'm finding that University of Sydney is like accommodating for science for me really well. So yeah.
Well, while you're still talking about your studying techniques, Nuha, we have a question from Bianca who asks, what is the best way to study science for exams?
It really depends on what type of science you're talking about. If it's biology, 100% I recommend you sort of sit in front of the mirror and sort of teach yourself and sort of like pretend you're teaching someone else and see how much content you can get across and how easily you can do that. That's like biology. For things like chemistry and physics, definitely so like as much practice questions as possible. Try find like different types of practice questions. Get yourself exposed to like there's so many ways that a question can be asked. So try to get yourself exposed to the different types of ways something can be asked. But it just really depends on the type of science.
Did Gemma or Arshia have something to add to how you would study science?
I guess that's absolutely right. For biology, it's a bit different because there is a large pool of questions that you can get asked. I know in my HSC, we got questions asked that it was totally different to what we did. But for chemistry and physics, yeah, absolutely, lots of practice questions. The ones that Nessa sent is amazing. It's, for me, at least for my year, it was a exact reflection of what we were asked. And yeah, practice, practice, practice.
Oh, fantastic. Now, this question might be a little early in your degrees to ask, but Jessica asks, do you have lots of opportunities for research or internships? Has anyone done anything like that yet? Probably not.
No, but with my degree, I think I have the opportunity to do honours after 3rd year. I'm not entirely sure what honours involves, but I just know that that's the case. But with my degree, so I do the bachelor degree for the first 2 years, and then we move on to the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, where we do a lot of practice with animals. We learn about nutrition and structure, and we do surgery practice, and we do a lot of placements. So we do like government placements with like Department of Ag. We get to travel to different practices, like small rural practices, city practices, that sort of thing, to get a lot of experience.
Fantastic. I'll just quickly add that if you get into our bachelor with the Bachelor of Advanced Studies enhancement, which is a degree choice. You can have that 4th year of honours year, just like what Gemma was talking about, but instead you could do some sort of internship or work with an industry. It's quite a flexible 4th year, so that was advanced studies. Thank you. We have another question here from Bianca. Where would you find practice questions for a year 10 student? Does NESA provide practice questions for a years younger than year 12?
I guess that's a really big struggle in year 10 and year 11 because NESA does not provide any specific question or sample questions for you guys to do. Google is your friend. You can always look up, let's say, science sample questions for year 10. And I'm pretty sure you can get, at least I got access to school's past papers or even like textbooks past papers. But yeah, NESA does not give you guys any kind of like official past paper or sample questions, but you can always find some. I found some and it's not that hard. Just Google and hopefully you find some.
We had one more question for you, Arshia. Just a little more detail about what questions from NESA were you referring to when you were saying that they were similar to the questions from the exam?
Yeah, so because for my year, I assume your year as well, we were doing the new syllabus. NESA actually provided us with like around 70 pages of questions for all 3 sciences. So biology, physics, and chemistry. And there were multiple choice questions, there were long answer questions, and with detailed answer, with different bands answer. So a band 4 would answer it like this, a band 5 would answer it like this. And that's what I was referring to. I'm pretty sure you can find it if you just go to NESA's website, even if they've removed it. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere on the internet, and that was pretty helpful. Yeah.
Thanks, Arshia. We have a question from Lara. Could you describe the difference between the Advanced Science course and the Advanced Studies with Bachelor of Science course? Are any of you doing any of the Advanced Science subjects?
Not really.
Probably not from your degrees. That's all right, I can quickly answer this one. So advanced science subjects are just sort of your normal subject, but with a little extra content. So if I'm quite excited and keen and good at physics, then I could do Physics 1001, or I could do Physics Advanced 1001 and get a few more questions, be with people who are all a bit more proficient at physics, but in general you do kind of similar exams. Now, if you are talking about advanced studies, it's a completely different thing. It's like an addition to a normal Bachelor of Science, where instead of a 3-year course, it's a 4-year course, where this is like the advanced studies bit. And in that 4th year, you get to do an honours. You can do more than one major, so you can major in 2 things instead of just 1 thing, or you can do a little more industry work. And so it's sort of like a booster to your degree. I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea. We do have another question. Fantastic question from Eleanor. How did you know which science degree you wanted to pursue? Who would like to do this one first? Let's pass this to Gemma. How did you know you wanted to do vet science?
I think with me and a lot of other vet students, we've kind of felt like we've wanted to be vets for a long time. I think, yeah, when I was like 5 or so, I was like, I want to be a vet. But then that kind of died off a little bit when I found that I really liked English, and I don't think I had great teachers in high school for science until year 11 and 12. And then I realized, might have been start of year 12, that I still really did want to be a vet, even though my parents had been pushing me towards engineering, because I loved animals and I'd learned a lot of analytical skills and problem solving skills during my studies. Like even with English and physics and maths, they kind of taught me different ways of thinking that I realized were going to be really applicable to veterinary medicine. But yeah, I think I think deciding what science major you want to do is really just focusing on what interest you have, and just picking the subjects which you find the most interesting. And yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gemma. I might just ask this to Nuha as well. So how did you choose what science degree to go to, and knowing that you're wanting to eventually go to medical?
Yeah, so basically I wanted to, like, as usual, do what I really wanted to do. Like, for example, something like physics was like completely like just a no for me, because like physics is just like too much. So I wanted to go something like more biochemistry, and like since I have like good experience with it from high school and I have a good like solid foundation, I thought that, you know, doing something like that would make like just uni a lot more like easier, I guess. And like it was something also that I really liked, so I just went for biology and chemistry, although my majors, okay, there's a bit of a like major drama there, but basically like I wanted to do something very bio and chemistry related, which is yeah, which University of Sydney had offered me. And yeah, just simply a lot based on your interests.
Thank you. I have a question for Arsha. From Asha, what career pathways does having a Bachelor of Medical Science give you, and how do I prepare for this?
Awesome, that's a really good question. I really wondered about that. Bachelor of Medical Science is the first thing that comes to people's mind is medicine. So Bachelor of Medical Science prepares you for what's going to come in postgraduate medicine. You learn all the basis and all the simple bits that are going to make your medicine journey. And that's what I'm planning on doing. I want to hopefully do GAMSAT next year and hopefully get into postgraduate medicine. But that's not really all you can do. We had lots of demonstrators and tutors that did Bachelor of Medical Science and ended up doing an honors year or maybe do some research, get their PhD. And they found their pathways and they're doing lots of stuff. They're working at some labs. Some of them are doing research and they're getting paid for it. And yeah, so for me, it's medicine, but there's a lot you can do. And actually, even my year 12 science biology teacher, he did Bachelor of Medical Science and decided to be a teacher. He had the foundation, he had the knowledge. And yeah, that was it. There's lots of things you can do aside from medicine, but you can also do medicine if that's what you want to do.
Thank you. I have a well-being question. I am so tired when I come from school. How can I keep my energy up to study? Gemma, did you want to take this one?
Okay. So I also was very tired coming home from school, because I think my school started at 8 o'clock in the morning and finished at 4. So it was quite a long day because we didn't have Wednesdays at my school. We just went Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, which was an interesting little thing. But when I came home from school, I would give myself an hour or so I'd get home at about 4:30 and I'd take an hour or an hour and a half to do some exercise. I found that exercise was really, really important during my HSC year because it got me thinking about everything other than school, because school was just constant during that year. And that would give me time to have a break and work on my fitness. And I feel like a lot of people think if you do exercise you come out of it tired, but I always found that I had more energy afterwards because I just got rid of all the things that were making me feel tired during the day. So that's.
Did Nuha or Arsha have anything to add there?
I have a suggestion. This may be, okay, so basically one of my teachers gave me this suggestion and it may not work for everyone, but it would definitely work for me, and you can honestly give this a go. So basically like it became towards like around this time last year and probably like a bit later on around like July, August, like I started becoming really, really tired after school and I just like couldn't like deal with it. So every time I came from school, like I came home around like 4-ish, and then so I'd usually take like a little nap, whether it be up until 5 p.m, 6 p.m, and then that 2-hour nap will get me very energized. So then I'll start studying and go up to like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, and then have like more sleep. So overall, I still get like 7-8 hours sleep in a day. I still get that amount of sleep, but just in different increments. So it keeps me energized to study, and then also like I'm ready for the next day for school.
Well, thank you. Here's a question from Jessica. Do you go to the university every day? I presume this is even not physically going to the university, but do you have university classes every day? Do you want to put your hand up if yes? Yes, every day, right?
But just to add a little something to it, in university you have absolute control of your timetable, what you want to do and how many units you want to do. So it's totally up to you. You can go two days per week, you can go 3 days, or you can even go 5 days per week. So it's totally up to you.
Fantastic. Here's a question from Eloise. Is there any overlap with Bachelor of Medical Science and postgrad medicine? What subjects do you do in Bachelor of Medical Science?
Absolutely. So basically, Bachelor of Medical Science is the first degree that you're going to be doing if you're going to do undergraduate medicine. So Bachelor of Science, Doctor of Medicine. The Bachelor of Science is basically Bachelor of Medical Science. And even if you want to do postgraduate medicine, you're going to learn the basics of human body anatomy in Bachelor of Medical Science. The units that I'm doing are totally medical related, pathology, immunology, anatomy, and basically a human biology unit, which goes over all different parts of your body. And for next semester, I'm also doing immunology, just like build up on it. And there are also some elective units like chemistry, physics. It's up to you which one you want to do. And you have to do some maths units. There's not much in medical science, but you still have to do 1 or 2 units, which is like 12 credit points. And yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you. I have a question from Jessica. In Bachelor of Science only, can you pick a second major that is outside the Faculty of Science, and when do you start taking courses for that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So with Bachelor of Science, it's actually a very, very broad sort of degree, I guess. So basically, from personal experience, you can definitely do a major that's outside of science, but your first major has to be science related. So initially, I started off with doing a major in Immunology Pathology, which is one major in itself, and then I also did a major in economics, which is in the arts field. However, I did change from economics because I found that it was easier to just do all science. So you only have to really focus on one thing, which is just science in my head. But you can definitely do things. You can definitely have a second major outside the science faculty to sort of diversify your studies, increase your knowledge. And I think it's actually a very good idea to do that if you're willing to.
Fantastic, thank you. I have a question from Renyi. How should I study in year 11 if I am determined to do science in the HSC? Nuha, did you want to keep going with this one? How should a year 11 student attack the HSC from year 11 perspective?
Honestly, like in year 11, I'd say really take it slow. I feel like what you should really do is focus on how you study, your study methods, and sort of develop on that. So maybe try different sort of study methods, whether it be flashcards, highlighting things, teaching yourself, teaching someone else, however it works, just really juggle in with different study methods, because it really is different from everyone. So something that may work for someone else may not work for you at all. So year 11, I guess, is just to sort of juggle all the different study tactics and things. Maybe search up how other people study for science HSC, maybe talk to your elder friends that you may have. And then I feel like it would give you a very good indication of how you can tackle it in HSC.
I've always thought, I think I realized after I finished year 11 that year 11 is kind of just a trial period for year 12, when you figure out how you study, what works for you, and how to prepare for exams and how you deal in exams as well. What sort of things you should do before exams, whether you should take a break from your friends, not study the night before, those sort of things, what helps you think best in exams. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I have a question here from Siegfried. Any study tips if you're planning to do any sports during university? Do any of you do any university sports?
So I live at an on-campus college, and they run a lot of sporting events during the year, pre-corona period. Obviously nothing has happened this year, but just from experience with sports in school, it takes a bit of time management. to balance training and competitions. But if you're organized, like you plan your time out every day, for the, like what I do, I plan my time, my training periods during the week, on a calendar. Like I have each hour set out, and I highlight the times for travel and training and then getting home from training and competitions. And then I set which times I'll study around that. And then that'll give you set times so that you don't avoid studying or get stressed because you feel like you're not spending enough time on your studies because you're at sport too much. But yeah, I think organisation is definitely important, although I haven't had to do any sports at uni this year because of Corona. So.
Arshia, I think you had something to add?
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Because of COVID, we really didn't have the chance. But aside from that, yeah, exactly. Everything she said was great.
Fantastic. We have a follow-up question from Eloise. Are there any tips for getting involved in sports and clubs, like student societies? I know I joined 7 student societies at the start. What were you going to say, Arshia?
Yeah, that was absolutely me as well. The first day of university, that open day kind of thingy. I just joined as many as clubs as I could, lots of groups, and that was amazing. That gave me a kind of a social dependent on the university, and that was something I loved. So just put yourself out there, just be open to try new things, and you're gonna love it.
What are the clubs that you've joined?
I've joined the Society of Medical Science, the Amazing Chocolate Society.
Oh.
The first week we got lots of chocolate. That was amazing. There was Food Society, Wine Society, absolutely if you're over 18. And yeah, those ones. Oh, and Dog Society. You get to touch dogs, play with them, and that was amazing. And yeah, those were the one I joined.
Fantastic. And have Nuha or Gemma joined any societies as well?
So I joined the Spanish and Latin American Society because I've been learning Spanish for a while, and they were encouraging people to join so that they could practice their language skills. But all the events are running online now, although I don't think they've run any recently. And I also joined the University Wind Orchestra, but I couldn't join until second semester. So hopefully next semester, if things are cleared up, we can start. Yeah, they're a great way to be social and meet new people.
Fantastic, thank you. Look, we're almost coming to time. We're not going to run away just yet, but I might just change this slide. If anyone has to run away, but they still have more questions for us, you're very welcome to send schools.outreach@sydney.edu.au a question, any question at all, and someone will answer. Anyone who's interested in beefing up their HSC knowledge for biology, chemistry, maths or physics, we are running some HSC syllabus days on the 15th of July. It's called Kickstart, so Kickstart Your HSC. If you're interested in that, you can also send an email just for asking for more information at schools.outreach. Otherwise, why don't we do 1 or 2 more questions with our students. We have a double question here about medical science. So, is the pathway from medical science to medicine really competitive? And is there any flexibility and interest projects along the way in the degree?
Okay, so let me start by saying medicine is always competitive. It's one of the most competitive units and degrees that you can do anywhere in the world. But that's not to scare you. Bachelor of Medical Science, sorry, my bad. Doctor of Medicine at the University of Sydney is mostly postgraduate. So when you're going to apply, there is only 15 to 20 people that are doing undergraduate medicine. And there is around like 400 space, as I asked. So the majority of the spaces are allocated to people that are doing postgraduate medicine. So if you can always work harder, and you can always work hard to get into postgraduate medicine, because as I said, there's lots of space available. And as long as you're willing to do the work and you're willing to do the medicine job and you love it, you can do it. Absolutely. It is competitive, but you can always do it. It's not impossible.
Fantastic. And I think the second part of the question is there flexibility in the degree to do like other interests, or is it very like focused?
Oh, absolutely. You can always do your own research, do your own units. As far as I know, in the second year, you get to choose your own research project. If you want to, you can always go with the curriculum, but you always get the choice and the option to do that. I'm not really entirely sure how that works, but I know that that's the thing, and I was really excited for it, and I was hoping to do something that I like in the second year.
Fantastic, thank you. I have a bit of a wild card question here. I'm not sure if any of you will know, but Bianca asks, is there any ways to get extra points in the HSC for getting into a science degree?
Yes, there are quite a few ways. So I got in through a scheme, so it's not extra points exactly my scheme, but I got in through a scheme called the Future Leaders Scheme, which gave me a adjusted ATAR based on the fact that I was my school dux. And you can also get in through that same scheme through being a school captain. And there's other schemes, including the Elite Athlete Scheme, I believe, where if you're competing at national levels, they'll give you an adjusted ATAR. And there's also an academic excellence scheme where if you gain, say, a band 6 in advanced English or in maths, they will give you two extra points to your ATAR. Like it adjusts your ATAR for getting into the uni based on the fact that you did well in other subjects. So say you needed an 85 and you only got an 83, it'll boost your ATAR to an 85 when applying to the uni.
There's also another scheme called E12 scheme, and I think it depends if a school is sort of associated with University of Sydney in that way. I'm not too sure. But basically what this scheme does is that it brings the ATAR cutoff down. So for example, you need a 90 ATAR to get into a particular course. It can bring it down to like an 85. So you just need to meet that threshold in order to get in. And you also do get sort of like a scholarship as like a welcome, like, you know, kind of thing. So that's actually a very good scheme to sort of look into, and it's definitely very helpful both financially and also like allows you to get into subjects that may be a bit more trickier to get in.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Look, I think we've run out of time. We've come to the end of our session. Thank you so much to Arshia, Gemma and Nuha again for giving up their time and their worldly wise experience. Just for the answer for that last question, there is a link in the chat box for the admission pathways with more information about that last one. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found it helpful and useful. We have more sort of events a bit like this if you wanted to go to that link on the slide. Otherwise, the very, very best of luck with your HSC and exams and studying, and we wish you all the best and maybe see some of you at the university on the other side. All right, bye.